nightmare. It's worse than it was before, and there's no one to turn to for help now.
What on earth went wrong? I thought it was forever after.
Some hopes. His parents, King and Queen of South Fairyland, never took kindly to the fact that I'm a commoner. They made it quite clear from day one. They obviously preferred a real princess. Someone like that Sleeping Beauty, I expect. You know who I mean. Oh, who's been fast asleep for nearly 100 years. They reckon she's far more suitable. Mind you, there's more than one prince lining up to give her a kiss. Depends on who gets there first.
Men. What's happened to your fairy godmother anyway? Couldn't she do something about it?
Alice, you'll never believe this. She's taken early retirement. Handed in her magic wand and beggared off to Never Never Land, leaving me to fend for myself.
Well, that's not very godmother-like, is it?
She's like the rest of the fairy public services. They're all fixed up with these gold-plated pensions, and to hell with everyone else.
Surely there should be someone appointed to take her place.
I don't know. With all these royal cutbacks, who knows? I was hoping I'd meet up with another nice gentleman. Lost my place.
So funny name.
That didn't work out either. I fancied that Georgie Porgy. But every time he kissed me, he made me cry.
Oh dear, you're not having a lot of good fortune, Cinder, are you?
You can say that again. How about you, Alice? Have you been down to Wonderland lately?
I go there every time I fall asleep, which is a bit annoying. Things are no better. The White Rabbit is still dashing about, late as ever. The March Hare and the Hatter are still mad, and the Duchess's cook is still putting too much pepper in that blooming soup. Everyone is sneezing their damned heads off, and to top it all, the Queen is still shouting, "Off with her heads!" every 2 minutes. Somebody ought to chop hers off.
From what you say, I agree.
It's just like everything else. Fairyland is just going to the dragons.
Have you seen Snow White lately? She used to come in here quite often. But then, again, I suppose she's enough on her plate, cooking and cleaning after the 7 dwarfs. Is she still staying with them, by the way?
Yes, she is. But it was reported that when the wicked Queen found out Snow White was still alive, she was furious, especially since the girl was still proclaimed to be the most beautiful in the land. So what does she do? She gets Snow White to bite a poisoned apple, which apparently killed her. However, by some means, this prince comes out of the nowhere and brings her back to life.
It beggars belief what goes on in Fairyland, Alice.
There's something else though, but come a little bit closer. There's Jack Horner over there, sitting in the corner with little Miss Muffet, and I don't want those two spreading his spout all over Fairyland, because what I'm going to tell you is just a rumour. It's been reported in the Fairy's Own magazine that Snow White might be pregnant.
Goodness me, that's awful. Are there no morals these days? Hey, who in Fairyland's the father then?
Well, one of the dwarfs is suspected. Nobody knows which one, but you can bet your life it isn't Grumpy or Dopey. My money's on Happy. I wondered why he'd always got a smile on his face.
That's unbelievable, Alice. I can't see Snow White having an affair with a dwarf.
Well, as I said, it's only a rumour, and you could be right. but we'll have to wait and see. There's also a mention in the magazine about this new magic communications thing, which means you can now send messages with a BlackBerry. I don't know how it works, and you wouldn't get me doing it.
One of the ugly sisters has got one of those. She's chit-chatting to somebody most of the day. She keeps telling them how beautiful she is. They'll be in for a shock when they see the real thing. But I've heard that people can listen into your conversation. It's called hacking or something. Just imagine some wicked witch knowing all your private business. You'd be turned into a frog before you knew where you were.
They say that lad who sold that cow for a few beans has won as well.
Where in Fairyland has he got to? I haven't seen him for ages. He used to come in here quite a lot. What's his name?
It's Jack.
It's not the same Jack that fell down the hill, is it?
No, he's still in hospital. And that girl, Jill, she's been arrested for breaking his crown with a bucket.
That's shocking. You must mean the one who's living in absolute luxury with his mother then.
Yes, thanks to him climbing up that beanstalk. Do you know that goose he stole from that ogre lays golden eggs twice a week? And you know as well as I do, the price of gold has gone through the roof. Jack even stole several bags of the ogre's gold and then killed him. I've not got much time for ogres, but really there's a limit.
Well, I agree with you up to a point, but I had heard that the ogre was going to have him for supper. Jack was lucky. It was the ogre's wife who saved him, you know. I think the ogre got what he deserved.
I suppose you're right, but it's one rule for the rich and one for the poor.
And I know which side of the fence I'm on.
How come you didn't get something out of that prince? Surely you were entitled to some compensation.
I tried. It even went to a tribunal, but that father of his said I had tricked the prince and that the glass slipper had been planted. It was also suggested that the fairy godmother and I were both members of the Kingdom National Party, which is absolute rubbish. I've always voted for the Green Grass Party.
Well, it's everybody to their own taste, I suppose. By the way, I was going to ask you, have you seen Red Riding Hood lately?
No. Last time I heard, she was booked in at Specsavers. Nobody can understand how she couldn't tell the difference between her grandmother and a woman. I know he had a nightie on and a cap. But come on, all this stuff about having a big mouth and big ears, it's absolutely ludicrous.
Well, I see what you mean, but I blame the mother. Who in their right mind would send a girl into the woods on her own? She told her to keep up to the path, but you know what young girls are like these days. It's a good job that hunter chap was around.
I'm not so sure about that. What's a grown man doing hanging around a young girl in the woods? I know he had his excuses, but I did hear that he was in the woods when young Goldilocks got lost. Bit of a strange coincidence, to say the least.
Do you know, I think I read something about that in the Fairyland news, but I don't believe half that story. For a start, why did the Father Bear leave the cottage door unlocked? I mean, you can't trust anyone these days, can you? Apart from the 7 dwarves, there's hardly anyone in full-time employment.
Half the population's on benefits.
You're right there. Tell me how many trolls, gnomes, goblins and elves have got jobs. They hang around on street corners, their collars turned up, their hats pulled over their faces. Half of them are stoned on poppy seed. There's a troll on every street corner dealing in drugs. And what do the King's Guards do about it? Absolutely nothing.
Steady on, Alice. They're not all bad. You've got to admit that there are some people still working hard. Mary! Got a few Marys here. I've just spoken to her. Mary might be a bit contrary, but she does keep the gardens tidy. And little Bo Peep looks after the sheep. When she finds them, that is. And don't forget, Santa's little helpers will be on the production line. They've plenty to do all the year round.
You're right, I suppose, Cinders. But have you heard about the helpers' union leaders threatening a strike? Father Christmas is tearing his beard off. It's all about the fact they will have to contribute more into the pension fund. They're damned lucky to have a pension at all. I don't know what the kingdom is coming to. Which reminds me, I've got to collect my magic potion prescription for these migraines that I keep getting.
I make no wonder with all these problems in Fairyland. There's enough to give anybody a headache. I just wonder what's coming next.
That's another thing. The price of everything. My prescription from the Wizard of Oz has gone up again. And it's the same at the butchers, the bakers, and the candlestick makers. I don't know where it will all end.
Mind you, compared to our Mother Hubbard, we haven't a great deal to worry about. No wonder she doesn't know what to do with so many children. I wouldn't know what to do either. Which reminds me, I've some washing and ironing to do, so I'd better get home.
Yes, I've got to go too, but just let me remind you, don't be kissing that frog in the village pond. I've heard it will turn into another damned prince, and that's the last thing we need. Bye, Cinders.
Bye, Alice.
Thank you, Matilda. Didn't they do well? Good one, and thank you, of course, to our playwright, Ken Sidebottom.